If you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most notorious criminals to be taken not alive by the U.S.'s two most famous intelligence services, foreign and domestic.
Zawahiri is credited with shifting al-Qaeda's focus from fighting Arab regimes to attacking the United States.
Roy McGrath. This political operative served as director of the Maryland Environmental Service and briefly worked as chief of staff to the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan.
Well, a federal judge issued a warrant for McGrath's arrest on Monday after he failed to appear here in court for the first day of his federal criminal trial.
However, he was forced to resign after getting caught in a financial scandal and was later charged with falsification of records and wire fraud. However, he failed to appear in court and became a federal fugitive. The FBI tracked him down through cell phone signals and credit card records, and on April 3, 2023, agents moved to arrest McGrath outside a Tennessee Costco. He fled, resulting in a police chase that ended when he became boxed in. FBI agents shot McGrath at the exact same time he turned his gun on himself. It's unclear which was the fatal blow.
The FBI tells us that they have found him earlier this evening along a major highway in Knoxville. And around 6:30 this evening, a responding agent shot him.
Craig Robertson. In September of 2022, 74-year-old Craig Robertson made his first of many threats against President Joe Biden, writing, quote, "The time is right for a presidential assassination or two. First Joe, then Kamala."
Robertson made threats against President Biden and other officials on social media before his death.
Biden was a repeated target of Robertson's online threats, but so too were California Governor Gavin Newsom, District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and Attorneys General Letitia James and Merrick Garland. His violent posts eventually caught the attention of the FBI National Threats Operations Center. They began monitoring Robertson, and on the morning of August 9, 2023, they arrived at his Utah home to serve an arrest warrant. However, Robertson was prepared and allegedly began firing at the agents with a revolver. He was killed by returning fire.
I just can't believe this happened in my neighborhood. I just can't believe that, that it came to this. It just seems unreal.
Toby Wiggins. Back in 2020, Alabama native Toby Wiggins attracted the attention of the FBI.
FBI agents had information Wiggins was here in the area at this mobile home park. Negotiators attempted to talk Wiggins out of the home, but had no luck, we're told.
He had become the prime suspect in the death of 39-year-old Kashona Tate, and he was charged with first-degree murder. With federal warrants out for his arrest, FBI agents stormed Wiggins' trailer park home in Atmore, Alabama. They provided a telephone to Wiggins, and a tense standoff occurred, with Wiggins periodically breaking from the conversation to wave at the growing crowd and blow them kisses. With negotiations having failed, Wiggins later emerged from the trailer with a shirt over his right arm. It's believed that this shirt concealed a weapon, as agents soon fired multiple shots into Wiggins, killing him at the scene.
This all happened in the neighborhood behind Snappy's Car Wash just off 21 on Liberty Street.
Greg Allen Carlson. In September of 2018, Greg Allen Carlson was added to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list after committing a series of armed sexual assaults in the greater Los Angeles area.
FBI says Carlson, one of the most wanted people in the country.
Carlson was arrested for the crimes in 2017, but fled after posting bond. He was later spotted in Florida, Alabama, and South Carolina, and the FBI became involved when he was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Fast forward to February 2019, when a North Carolina police officer spotted Carlson's car in the parking lot of a local hotel. The FBI was called and stormed his hotel room, resulting in a brief altercation that ended in Carlson's death.
The FBI says agents went to Carlson's room to arrest him. They say Carlson was armed and that one shot was fired by an FBI agent that killed Carlson.
Jamal Al-Badawi. The multiple downfalls of this Yemeni al-Qaeda operative were as harrowing as his crimes were horrific. Jamal Al-Badawi gained notoriety by organizing the bombing of the USS Cole in 2000, which killed 17 American sailors.
Members of al-Qaeda attacked the Norfolk-based Navy destroyer while it was refueling in Yemen.
He would have attacked the USS the Sullivan if the boat wasn't stifled by the excess of explosives on board. Al-Badawi was captured by the FBI and Yemeni authorities on 50 charges, only to escape during a prisoner transfer. He was captured again, sentenced to death, and escaped from jail. In 2007, Al-Badawi surrendered to the authorities and seemingly went free as part of a deal. But that death sentence ultimately came 11 years later. Al-Badawi was killed in a CIA drone strike on New Year's Day 2019.
The U.S. military says the drone strike was launched New Year's Day, targeting the man who helped bomb the USS Cole nearly 2 decades ago.
Richard McCoy Jr., the skyjacker known only as D.B. Cooper, was never formally identified.
It consistently is on the list of the top 5 crime mysteries.
One suspect was Richard McCoy Jr., a former U.S. Army pilot and skydiver who hijacked a United Airlines jet for a $50,000 ransom in 1972. This was shortly after Cooper hijacked a similar plane and also escaped through the air stairs. 2 days later, McCoy was arrested with nearly $500,000 in a duffel bag in his home. He escaped from prison by crashing a stolen garbage truck through the gate, but was killed in a gunfight with FBI agents 3 months after an armed bank robbery. Whether McCoy was the fabled D.B. Cooper, his criminal career and demise were certainly historic.
Despite their theory that McCoy is D.B. Cooper, today's FBI doesn't agree.
Rashid Rauf. Contradictions surround Rashid Rauf's death as much as his life. The British Muslim was radicalized in the wake of 9/11, though some believe he fled to Pakistan to avoid questioning in his uncle's murder. Rauf gained Pakistani citizenship and joined an al-Qaeda-linked Kashmiri militant group before being arrested on suspicion of planning the 7/7 attacks in London. He escaped custody and was reportedly killed in an airstrike in 2008. However, some associates and outlets claim that this didn't happen and that Rauf may have died in prison. Evidence of the strike remains strong enough for his family to file a lawsuit against the UK government for assisting the CIA in killing Rauf without due process. Robert J. Matthews. The manhunt of Robert J. Matthews was bound to be dramatized in movies.
This is the man who inspired that belief, the man who brought the order together, Bob Matthews.
Matthews was a known neo-Nazi, and in 1984, he shot and wounded an FBI agent in Oregon. The Bureau then tracked Matthews to a house on Whidbey Island in Washington and laid him under siege for 2 days. Matthews proved confrontational, and after tear gas failed to flush him out, agents began firing into the structure with machine guns and other large weapons. Meanwhile, gunfire continued to erupt from the house, suggesting that Matthews was still alive. Eventually, an FBI helicopter fired illumination flares into the house, resulting in a huge explosion that destroyed the homestead and killed Matthews.
The leader of the order never emerges from his safe house.
I will never submit nor surrender. Goodbye, kinsman.
Bob Matthews' war with the government has finally come to an end.
Ma Barker, real name Arizona Clark. Ma Barker was purported to be the genius matriarch of the Depression-era Barker-Karpus gang.
They were an active part of the community. They seemed to just melt right in.
Little did the community know the Blackburns were Fred Barker and his mother Kate Ma Barker, a notorious family responsible for several crimes.
But this was mostly just FBI propaganda. No, Barker wasn't entirely innocent. She was most definitely an accessory, as she knew of her children's criminal empire and even helped them hide from police. But she was no leader. As told by bank robber Harvey Bailey, she, quote, couldn't even plan breakfast.
She was reaping the benefits, and they needed her because they could move easily where it looks like Ma and her sons. The law isn't apt to catch them.
Regardless, Barker was grouped with her sons, and on January 16, 1935, the FBI stormed their Florida hideout, killing Barker and her son Fred. It's now widely believed that director J. Edgar Hoover made up the claims about Barker to justify their shooting of her. Qaed Salim Sinan al-Harithi, linked to Osama bin Laden all the way back to the Soviet-Afghan War, Qaed Salim Sinan al-Harithi led the al-Qaeda chapter in his native Yemen. He was one of the key planners behind the USS Cole in 2000. He was in hiding when he ordered the attack on the French-owned MV Limburg 2 years later. Within a month, al-Harithi was killed in Marib by a Predator drone controlled by the CIA. The first such drone strike outside of Afghanistan also claimed the lives of 5 associates, including Kamal Derwish of New York's Lackawanna cell. This controversial death of an American without a trial was reportedly a mistake. The pivotal assassination of al-Harithi was met with much less backlash. Brady. Bangor, Maine is known for two things, being the home of Stephen King and the location of Al Brady's explosive final moments.
The Brady gang consisted of Al Brady, the leader, and then also Clarence Schaefer and James Dolliver. They did a little bit of everything. It was a lot of banks, stores, jewelry stores, kind of criminal mischief throughout the Midwest.
Brady was a Depression-era gangster and murderer who became an FBI public enemy after stealing roughly $5,000. He eventually made his way to Bangor and attempted to purchase 500 rounds of ammo from a local gun dealer. Suspicious with the request and the large bills that Brady had used, the owner contacted the police, and when Brady returned to pick up his order, he found FBI agents waiting for him. A furious shootout then erupted, with Brady and his partner Clarence Schaefer being gunned down by FBI agent Walter Walsh.
We think a lot about Maine and a lot of things being very, very quiet. And then this country-shaking event of a public enemy number one meeting their end in little old Bangor, Maine.
The story soon became a famous piece of Bangor lore. Mohammed Atef, an Egyptian veteran of the Soviet-Afghan War, Mohammed Atef became one of the chief architects and intellectuals of al-Qaeda. He helped issue the fatwa which justified the killing of American civilians and planned the 1998 attack on U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. The subsequent arrest warrant didn't deter him from rising in the organization to develop many of its most heinous early crimes. After 9/11 finally sparked the war on terror, Atef became one of its first major casualties in an airstrike on his home in Kabul. His death marked a major blow by the CIA and other agencies against al-Qaeda, especially with the treasure trove of crucial intelligence found in the rubble. Billy Dean Anderson. The myth of the American outlaw was revived with Billy Dean Anderson throughout the 1960s and 70s. He was a respected preacher and talented artisan in Fentress County, Tennessee, before he committed a string of armed robberies and assaults as far as Indiana. He repeatedly got out of prison through good behavior and even escape, and relied on community members to help him hide out in the mountains. Eventually added to the FBI's most wanted fugitives list, Anderson was discovered by agents at his mother's house and fatally shot in the ensuing chase on July 7, 1979. He is still regarded as a folk legend around his home, having never taken a life in his abhorrent history of violence. Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. Even the likes of Osama bin Laden considered Abu Musab al-Zarqawi uniquely twisted.
In prison, he really came into his own because he managed to dominate the other prisoners. He managed to establish himself as a leader.
The Jordanian petty criminal turned Jamaat founder led a number of terror attacks and personally executed hostages on camera. His leadership of al-Qaeda's chapter in Iraq gave him the power to declare war on the entire Shiite population, despite the caution of fellow jihadis. It's believed that al-Zarqawi also plotted to provoke a U.S. invasion of Iran to draw them out of Iraq. Instead, in 2006, he died from injuries sustained in a CIA-assisted bombing of his safe house. The propagandist's death was itself turned into propaganda that further undermined his organization's authority.
Now Zarqawi has met his end, and this violent man will never murder again.
It's still hard to verify the extent of al-Zarqawi's influence, let alone his cruelty. Anwar Alaki, an American imam from a distinguished Yemeni family, Anwar Alaki rose to prominence as a politically connected spokesman for moderate Muslims in the wake of 9/11.
The U.S. had been zeroing in on al-Awlaki's location for months. In their sights, a compound deep in the backcountry of Yemen, where U.S. military and intelligence operatives were certain the American-born terrorist was hiding out.
But his association with extremists eventually prompted him to relocate to Yemen, where he was arrested on suspicion of terror-related activities. Al-Awlaki was certainly radicalized after this. His background and education made him a key recruiter for al-Qaeda, then a leader linked to such attacks as the 2009 shooting in Fort Hood, Texas. In 2011, Al-Awlaki became the first U.S. citizen officially assassinated by a CIA-directed drone strike. His death was met with controversy in both his homelands, while his words continue to inspire the most warped Islamists.
The death of Alaki marks another significant milestone in the broader effort to defeat al-Qaeda.
Babyface Nelson, one of the most notorious criminals in American history. Babyface Nelson was a known bank robber, and on November 27, 1934, he was public enemy number 1. It was on that date that Nelson would go down in what is now known as the Battle of Barrington. Nelson and a car full of FBI agents passed each other on Highway 12 in Illinois, resulting in a violent chase. It ended in Barrington's Northside Park, where a massive shootout occurred. 2 agents were killed in the exchange, and Nelson was fatally wounded after receiving 9 shots, 8 shotgun pellets to the leg and 1 slug to the gut. He made it to a safe house in Wilmette, but succumbed to his injuries later that evening. Pretty Boy Floyd. These old-timey gangsters loved them a good nickname. Another famous bank robber of the 1930s, Pretty Boy Floyd attracted attention not just because of his exploits, but because he freed many people from debt by burning mortgage documents. In this regard, he was considered something of a folk hero by the American public. But folk hero or not, his crimes still attracted the attention of the FBI, and they got him on October 22, 1934. The story has about 1 million different versions, as accounts differ wildly depending on who's telling it, but the result is the same. Floyd was shot and killed in a cornfield outside the city of East Liverpool, Ohio. His funeral was attended by up to 40,000 people. Imad Magna. Despite his prominent position in Lebanon's Hezbollah party, Imad Magna managed to skillfully elude authorities as the leader of the Islamic Jihad organization.
He was, for decades, one of the most wanted men in the world.
His operations, including attacks on a U.S. embassy in 1983 and the Israeli embassy in Argentina in 1992, resulted in hundreds of deaths. He was wanted in many countries for decades before the CIA and Mossad collaborated on a long shot. In 2008, Magna was in Damascus to commemorate the 29th anniversary of the Syrian Revolution, when one of his car tires was replaced with an explosive one. This dramatic assassination was condemned by some as terroristic, despite the lack of collateral damage.
Magna was killed in a car bombing in Damascus late on Tuesday. Authorities say he was traveling in a car in a residential neighborhood in the Syrian capital when the bomb was detonated.
The end result remains the downfall of one of the most wanted and powerful terrorists in the world, John Dillinger. Accused of robbing 24 banks and 4 police stations, John Dillinger is one of the most famous of the Depression-era gangsters.
On his 31st birthday, June 22, 1934, John Dillinger is named America's very first public enemy number 1.
And his death is Chicago legend. On July 22, 1934, Dillinger was leaving the Biograph Theater when he spotted federal agents waiting for him. The FBI had planned for the ensuing foot chase and had already closed it off. 3 agents pursued Dillinger and shot him, hitting him a total of 4 times. The fatal shot entered his neck and severed his spinal cord, effectively killing him instantly.
When the movie let out, shortly after 10:30 p.m., the agents were waiting.
Dillinger killed by federal agents commanded by Inspector Samuel Cowley, assisted by East Chicago, Indiana police.
Legend has it that bystanders were so enamored with the scene and the legend of Dillinger that they dipped their handkerchiefs in his blood as a macabre souvenir. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. Ayman al-Zawahiri. Following the death of Osama bin Laden, attention turned to the new general emir of al-Qaeda.
Both men were close, appearing in propaganda videos. Al-Zawahiri was even bin Laden's personal physician. The US wanted him dead or alive for $25 million.
Ayman al-Zawahiri was a surgeon for the Red Crescent before heading up the Egyptian Islamic Jihad. He was imprisoned in connection with the 1981 assassination of Anwar Sadat. After the EIG merged with al-Qaeda, al-Zawahiri helped orchestrate some of the organization's worst atrocities, including 9/11. He spent his tenure as emir attempting to organize global jihad under the watchful eye of the US government. Al-Qaeda as a major force effectively died with al-Zawahiri in a drone strike on July 31, 2022.
People around the world no longer need to fear the vicious and determined killer. The United States continues to demonstrate our resolve and our capacity to defend the American people against those who seek to do us harm.
The CIA may have driven the organization into obscurity, but al-Zawahiri and too many other criminals' deeds will outlive them. Who are some other fugitives whose run ended the hard way? Drop your tip in the comments.